So, hello, thank you so much for joining us today. I would love for you to introduce yourself to the watchers first off, if you don't mind.
Yep, sure. So thank you so much for having me on here. Honestly, I'm very grateful. My name is Shona. I'm an online fitness coach for women. I help women step into their full potential through a fitness journey. So for me, my transformation happened physically, then mentally, then emotionally. And I feel like that is a great way for someone to go through a transformation in terms of every way of their life. So that's who I am.
And Shona and I connected a little bit ago, and we kind of got into entrepreneurship. Like, Shona runs her own business, I do. And we went down this rabbit hole of like how your physical health and staying active and a lot of what Shona does actually ties into well-being and entrepreneurship. So we just had to get together and have that conversation on camera. So I'm going to run through a few questions with Shona, and we're going to let her do her thing and talk about exactly what she does and give you some feedback. But just to like introduce the topic, I guess, to the people watching who are business owners, maybe aren't prioritizing their physical health and things like going to the gym, nutrition, break down your perspective on this. Like, what's your views on physical well-being and how that can affect a business owner?
So obviously for me, my entire business is revolved around fitness, health, well-being, everything to do with our body, our mental health. So for me, it is the most important thing. Without it, I would not have a business. Without it, I wouldn't have a life. Like, I know this is very deep, but without your body being in a good state, you would not be able to do anything. You wouldn't be able to run your business. You wouldn't be able to make money. You wouldn't be able to live with your family. You wouldn't be able to do anything. So for me, that's the number one thing. I will always put myself before my business, like no matter what, because in my eyes, you are like three different people as a coach. Well, if you're not a coach, then you maybe not three different people. But for me, you are a person, then you're a coach, then you're a business owner. And you can't possibly be all three at one given time. So for me, I have to look after myself first in order to fill out, pour out of a full cup rather than pouring out of an empty cup. So I need to do what's right for me. Then I will be a good coach. And then in turn, I will have a good business. So for me, having a good business is just a plus of being a good person. And I know that I wouldn't be a very good person if I didn't exercise because I'm really stressed. I know that I wouldn't be a good person if I didn't look after my health in terms of like nutrition, mindfulness, well-being, even something as simple as like drinking enough water, which everyone forgets. So for me, that's the number one thing that I always need to be focusing on. Then as a coach, obviously I've done what I need to be doing. I've done what I preach about. I know how to coach everyone else because I've lived through all of the terrible times. I have experienced all of those feelings that they're going to feel during that time of getting coached. And then thirdly, the business owner. You can only run a business if you're good at your job. And you're only ever going to be good at your job if you're at your best self. Everyone knows that they've hit those highs, like in terms of monthly income. But in order to stay at that high, you need to be balanced as a person. Because if you're going to be going up and down in terms of your mood, that's only going to be reflective on your business. And the thing that regulates your mood is things like endorphins, and they come from exercise. Exercise can also reduce the amount of stress you're feeling, like cortisol and adrenaline. All of those can be reduced through things like exercise. And you'll just feel your best self from looking after yourself.
I love that. How long have you been in business, Shona? Remind me.
So this is going to be my second year, so crazy. So I'm actually only starting my second year now, like in April. But obviously this year has been crazy for me. So this time last year, I was only now getting into business. I think I hit like my first big month this month. And like that was my main focus for the entire year. I just really, really wanted to get more freedom, have more impact, have more happiness. And that I believe that stemmed from my business. But now obviously this year, taking an entire like I don't know what the word would be, but it's very much not that great. I've got to a place now where I have been able to sustain business without working as much.
Yeah.
But it's not ideal. It's not ideal because the reason why I haven't been working as much is because of my partner having some serious health issues, which you already know of. The listeners might not know, but it just shows in order for me to still keep living and being a good person, I've actually thankfully kept myself healthy throughout the entire of last year, got myself to a place where my business can almost run itself. And even though I'm only working like 2 days a week, which believe me, it's not ideal. Any business owner can understand. I'm probably working like 2 full days a week, but I'm still able to live. And like that's only from being so balanced last year. Obviously, I wish to be in a better place this time next year, but I'm just very, very thankful that I did look after myself. I have looked after my mental health, and ideally that should always come first. Your business should be able to just counter that and support you doing that. Because if you were always to put the business first, you wouldn't be able to do what was actually important. Like for me, that's to help Phil look after himself, and then for me to look after myself, and then the business can look after itself. If that makes sense.
I had to ask because that take is so healthy, that like I come first, not my business. And I'm 6 years in this year, and I still fight with myself of my priorities. And there are days where I'm very lucky. My boyfriend works inside of my business. He's part of the agency staff. And there are days where he jokes that his job role is to like remind me to like get up and go to the toilet, because I'm like, he can see me bouncing around in my seat, and he's like, just for God's sake, just go to the toilet, just have some water, like and it's a part of his job is looking after me, because I can go to this zone that's really unhealthy where I don't look after myself because I prioritize work and I prioritize business. And I think a lot of people watching have probably put themselves in that state more often than they've meant to, and from a place of passion for what you do and good things, but ultimately what it's doing to you as a person is not good. And I love that take that you don't tie your identity and who you are to being a business owner.
100%.
I think that takes the stakes off of things as well. It's like not just your physical well-being, but your mental well-being, the anxiety that can come of like trying to be successful, and I'm a business owner and entrepreneur, and I've got to do this and I've got to do that. If you're just focusing on Shona and your business is your business, those two things can kind of get pulled apart a little bit, so that it's easier, I suppose, for you to be in the right headspace to be healthy.
Definitely. And like, don't get me wrong, I haven't always had this kind of mindset. Like, believe me, I was also very similar to you, where I saw my business as my baby. It was the one thing that I owned, the one thing I created. It was like me and my business against the world. Like, I've definitely felt all of that. And even though you want the best for yourself, you want to succeed, like you want that impact, you want the freedom, you want the money, you want everything. And there comes to a place where you get that and you're like, oh, well, I'm not really living. Like, so why am I really having this business if I'm not having that freedom that I once wanted? And when I hit like my first highest month, that's when it happened. Like, you know, the entire analogy of hitting a glass ceiling, like you think you hit your full potential, but you actually have so much more, but you can never grow. You can never exceed past that because you actually haven't done the inner work. And it's going through things like therapy. I didn't even think I needed therapy. I still don't think I had many issues, but just talking about how I felt, it gave me the opportunity to keep growing, to keep realizing why I was doing this. And I think the one thing that I learned when the therapist asked me was, do you want an empire business or do you want a lifestyle business?
Yeah.
And then when she said that, I was like, oh, like, I actually don't want an empire business. Like, sure, I want enough money to be able to live and not have to worry about the price of things. But you can still have that in a lifestyle business. You don't have to be working 24/7 just to live your life. Like, you're alive to experience, not alive to work. And when I realized that, I was like, oh, okay. So then I started to take a step back and view my situation from an outside perspective rather than with the emotion that I feel, because obviously we're very emotionally attached to our business. Even if it's not a physical thing, it's just an idea. Like, coaching is just an idea. There are millions of coaching businesses, but you've created yours, so you think it's better, obviously. So like, you think that you need to continuously keep getting better and better and better, when in reality you will, but the only way you're going to get better as a person is by going and doing more. Like you are now, you're aware, you're experiencing things, you're fully immersed, and that will have a huge reflection on how you run your business, because you're going to be a better person, a kinder person, more experienced. You're going to deal with things a lot better. And that's what made me realize, like, why am I literally investing all this time in my office? I'm not creative, I'm bored, I feel stuck, I'm not living. And then all of a sudden I just started living, and I was like, these ideas just come to me, and it feels so much more natural and more of a flow.
Yeah. It's really obvious when you talk that you hugely prioritize like the mindful aspect of well-being and mental health and all of the things that aren't necessarily associated to what you do. Like you say, an online fitness coach.
I definitely do not like, I don't go into it enough, because I feel like if you advertise in the fitness world, like if you advertise mental health, people back away. They don't want to work on themselves. Like, as if, obviously
it's so crazy.
It is. I feel like there is a minority who are very self-aware, who are not self-conscious, like, but very conscious of the world they live in and who they are as a person. But the majority of people, I think it's a lot easier to take them through that physical transformation, then the mental transformation, then the emotional. Because if you were to advertise, oh, you're going to go through a mental transformation, they're like, well, no, I'm not. Like, how can you do that? It's just when you begin to change as a person, you become more confident, you become more self-understanding and self-empathetic and just kind as a person, then you will automatically go through this like person transformation. Like, you just change over time, but it can't be forced. And I don't think I think if I was to advertise that, I'd be more of a mental health coach, and I'm not qualified. So
I guess I'm curious, how did you end up like having such focus on things like mindfulness and mental health to complement the fitness coaching? Like, how is that something that you embedded in? Was it from your own experience, or did you see it in your clients?
Yeah, definitely from my own experience. So the reason why I became a health and fitness coach is because I just went through my own transformation. Like, it all started off probably when I was around 18. So I'm only 23 back now. So it wasn't even that long ago. When I was 18, I had a mini stroke, and it made me realize like life is so important. So I like turned super healthy. Well, what I thought was super healthy at the time. I didn't have much knowledge. So I cut out all meat. I was literally living on like veggies, but then I was better, but I was also a lot weaker. So I don't think I was quite getting the nutrition that I needed, but I thought that I was doing the right thing. So after that, then you just live. I was like 19, 20, like I just went a little bit more unhealthy, and I got really, really ill again. And I had another mini stroke at like 19. Yeah, it was honestly, so scary. And it wasn't like I would drink. I've never really drunk much. It was just hereditary. So there's something wrong with my heart. I got into like yoga, mindfulness, Tai Chi, things like that. And I would do that like multiple times a day. I was like obsessed because it made me feel better. It reduced my symptoms. I felt like myself again. I could move. I was stronger. So I kept eating really well. I was moving every day, just doing simple things like walks, breath work, and just trying to keep myself happy, because I knew that if I was happier, I would not get my symptoms. So it was like very closely linked. I could see that in myself. The doctors couldn't find anything wrong with me, because I just remember them saying, like, you're a slim young girl, there's nothing evidently wrong with you, and we can't do anything because there's no evidence. So I would just like have the mini stroke, recover within 3 months and be fine. And I was like, I can't deal with this happening, because it's so scary. And then I met my boyfriend Phil. He was lifting weights, and I remember him saying to me, like, do you want to come to the gym? I was like, no. I've never gone to a gym ever before. And I was like, no, thanks. And then I just remember him keep like kind of hinting to me, like, we have a garage gym. Do you want to use the garage? And I was like, no, I don't want to be bulky. I'd rather just get to my yoga and like Tai Chi and mindfulness. I'm really happy doing that. And then eventually, I'm not sure if you ever felt like this, but I was a little bit more young and I wanted to please. So I was like, well, if he wants me to do something, then maybe I should just do it because he'll like me more. So then I was like, I'll just come to the gym with you. And then I think I stayed consistent with the gym for like 2 weeks. And then all of a sudden, I know it sounds mad, but all of a sudden I could like push things, because everything that happened in my chest area, the tissue was a bit scarred. So I could like push something as simple as a trolley without pain. So I was like, I need to be going to the gym to reduce my pain and make me happier. So then I just started going super consistently. And all of a sudden, I was like, I was eating the same amount of food, really normal diet, like nothing super healthy, nothing
Hmm.
terrible either. But my body shape changed like within the first 3 months. And I was like, wow, this is insane. And at the time, Phil was doing his PT qualification and just about to start his business. And then I saw that what he could do within like the next 3 months. And I was like, I'm going to do this too, because
Yeah.
I was working in computer science and that was so stressful.
Yeah.
I just didn't have time to breathe. It was really, really difficult. Obviously, when you solve a problem, highest high, but when you're in the middle of a problem, the lowest
Yeah.
low. So for me to escape and go to the gym, I felt like that was massively helping me. And I thought if I could do this for myself, I can do this for other people. And like Phil was kind of my inspiration as well, growing his business like right in front of my eyes and seeing how well he
Hmm.
could do. I just thought I may as well do this too. And then I did my qualification and started my business April last year.
Wow. It's so amazing to hear you talk about it. Like, I feel like a lot of people associate the fitness industry with like, oh, well, you got into it to lose weight or to look a certain way. And to hear you explain that like you got the bug from the gym because you started to be able to push things and not feel pain, like
Yeah.
that drive. And not that there's anything wrong with having weight loss or aesthetic goals, but I can just imagine that perspective shift between just trying to look a certain way versus like, this is making me feel really good.
Yeah. And that's why I always say to my clients, you need a deeper goal. Like you need
Yeah,
to know your reason why. The exact same for you owning a business. You don't own a business to be
true.
rich.
Yeah.
You own a business to make impact. Like you have to do what you enjoy. And if it's like, obviously everyone wants to lose weight or everyone wants to look toned, like everyone does, but no
Yeah.
one actually does the work. So you want something as simple as losing weight. It's not deep enough for you to go and change. You need to have a reason why behind that. And like more often than not, you need to go a bit more deeper, have a couple of tears, or like really get to
Hmm.
know yourself a little bit more. You can't just be like, yeah, this is the new me. It's just not easy. So I think that's why it's so hard for people to actually want to change. And it does not have to be something as serious as a mini stroke. Like that is pretty
Yeah.
extreme. But I've had people who have come to me with things like confidence issues, like they can't possibly like lift their head up when they walk in, like they just look down.
Yeah.
And that for me is really, really deep. Or things like not being confident enough to like tell their boss no, like they just get walked over every single day of their lives, like they want to change that. And it does come from the physical aspect a lot of the time. Like if you're not physically confident, you can't mentally be confident.
Yeah.
So you kind of like have to push yourself out of your comfort zone and get moving, even if it's for a walk. That is going to boost your mood and that's going to get you going.
Yeah. So, I mean, you just said there's some things that kind of triggered with me thinking about the perspective of the watcher, all business owners. You talked about confidence and you talked about not being walked over. I think that's something that people struggle with a lot, especially early in business. Like it's hard to put boundaries in place when you want the income. So if a client says, can I sign up? And they look like they've got a couple of red flags or they're asking for things that make you feel a little bit weird. You're like, yeah, look, like we can do it. It's fine. And yeah, I know looking back at myself and all the people that I coached, like the first year, you typically let people kind of walk over you a little bit more than you should. You typically don't have those boundaries that you should have. Any thoughts or like tips on how what you are talking about and well-being, physical well-being can kind of tie into that? Like how do those two things interlink?
Yeah, so first of all, like you said, it's totally normal in your first year to
Yeah,
have
it's
the
fine.
boundaries. Like you want it so badly, you're gonna like put
Yeah.
yourself on the line for it. I definitely did that. But for me, I think it's just self-belief. Like you need to
Right.
believe in yourself. Like you have to know that you can do this. And like I know I keep relating it back to the gym, but it could
Yeah.
be something as little as lifting a little bit heavier. So you're usually lifting like 10 kilos. You go to something like 12.5 kilos. You believe then that you can do that and it sparks something in your brain.
Mm-hmm.
You almost like copy and paste that into a different aspect of your life. And then you all of a sudden believe in yourself that you can say no. And like, sure, it's going to make your heart beat really fast to begin with. It's going to make you so nervous, probably make you feel a little bit sick. when you like first turn that potential client away, you say no to the client wanted to call it like 9 p.m. But the first time you do it, as soon as you believe in yourself that you can do that, it will just make the rest of your life so much easier. And you have to push yourself into the deep end sometimes. You have to force yourself to evolve. It's not going to come naturally. It never does, just like your business didn't. So you have to almost, I always say forced evolution. It has to be. And then that will have the butterfly effect on the rest of your life.
Yeah, that's really interesting because there's this concept that is called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's like a triangle and there's lots of different layers, but it starts off as really simple things like shelter, safety, food, water, all that sort of stuff. The very top, I believe, from memory anyway, the very top of the pyramid is what's called self-actualization. So it's becoming in yourself who you've always wanted to be, like who you think of yourself as. And people really struggle with this concept of self-actualization. And the idea is that Maslow's hierarchy of needs will give you a really fulfilled life. And once you achieve every layer, you'll be happy, safe, confident. Like it goes beyond just having your needs met. It's like everything you could want in life, basically. But that top step is something that really stumbles people. And because I think so much of the concept, the work out there about how do you self-actualize, it's like, oh, well, manifest it, write down like I am a millionaire and it'll happen. And we can't like mentally make those links. I give this example a lot of, there's a podcast that I watched with Stephen Bartlett that was a bit gruesome actually. He said if he walked into your house and like the person you love the most is in your house with you, he's going to grab them, he's going to hold a gun to their head and he's going to say to you like, I'm Jesus. I'm going to shoot this person that you love so much unless you believe that I'm Jesus. And the person that he was talking to was like, yeah, you're Jesus. And he was saying like, you can say that to me, but you won't truly believe it. Like there's nothing that I could do there and then that would make you believe that I was Jesus. And that even though you want it so badly and the stakes are so high that it's the person that you love the most, like we just can't make ourselves believe something that we don't believe. And he tied it back to this concept of like business owners trying to tell themselves like, I'm a millionaire, I'm successful. He's like, unless you can prove to yourself that you can start to believe these things, it won't happen. And what you just said like immediately sparked that in my brain, that example, because if you, I never thought I could lift 50 kg, or I never thought that I could, these things that felt unbelievable now start to become like really possible for you.
100%. And like you just have to show yourself an example of how believing in yourself can benefit yourself. And you have to actually just like lead with example. You have to prove that you can do it. And then you can all of a sudden believe in yourself in other areas. By the way, I love that analogy, it's so true. But if you it's crazy to think, because a non-gym goer would never believe me. Like I wouldn't even, my own self wouldn't even believe me. But I can absolutely promise you, if you stayed consistent with a gym, maybe even if you only went twice a week, right? If you stayed consistent with the gym for at least 3 months, your entire life would be so much better. Like you think it's great now, but it would be so much better.
Do you think that there's anything particular people need to do? Like, does it need to be weightlifting, or can it be any type of physical exercise?
So I think it depends what you like. Like if someone loves swimming, I would never say you need to lift weights. Like lifting weights would probably help your swimming because it makes you stronger. It makes you more effective. If you did like some more cardio on the side, you'd probably be faster. But in terms of like what you enjoy, I think it's always a good idea to stick to what you enjoy and just get really, really good at it. But I would say lifting weights is the best because I love it. That might be biased.
I'm super biased. I'm with you, mind. I like have messed around with different types of weightlifting for years, and I go through phases. Like one day I'll love like really slow and steady, like go in, pick something heavy up and put it down. Other days I'm like, I want to do a CrossFit style, like crazy high intensity workout. So I think it does, you have like different phases and different moods
my style of training is obviously like I get all of my clients to do my style of training because that's how I think we get such good results.
But
for me it's like is functional. So you have like weightlifting and you have conditioning, which is kind of like CrossFit style. So it's a mix. So in my head, I'm like, there's no point in you trying to look great on the outside if your heart and lung health isn't very good. Like you need to be the entire package. You can't just look amazing and not feel amazing. Like you need both. And then that's what helps up top. Like that's what will help your mental health.
I think also
so
functional,
that could be a good thing for you. Some functional fitness.
It is so fun. I feel like I'm playing. Like when you bring out the tires or ropes and stuff, it just feels like I'm a kid in some kind of grown-up soft play or something.
And that's like honestly like the best kind of perspective to have on exercise. If you enjoy it, you're gonna do it more. Just like if you enjoy a piece of cake, you're gonna buy that cake again. Like if you like it, you're gonna keep doing it. So make sure whatever you're trying to do isn't forced to the point where it's boring.
Yeah, because I suppose if you're, especially for business owners, like if you're working on something you love, you're working on projects and you're trying to tear yourself away to make sure that you prioritize yourself and your health. When you're tearing yourself away to do something that you dread, I doubt that you're going to make that happen. You'll find the excuse to be like, oh, I'll just stay on my laptop for one more hour.
Definitely. 100%. Then before you know it, it's like, it's too late to go.
Yeah. Is there anything like in terms of that, like trying to tear yourself away is really hard. I think building the habit of exercise can be the hardest thing a lot of the time. Is there anything that you would recommend to the people at home can kind of put in place themselves to start the process of just building those boundaries and making sure that they are making time for their health as well as their business?
So I think it's like 2 points I immediately thought of. I think the first one is that all business owners know how important time management is, but I think a lot of us actually forget about energy management. Like where is your energy really coming from? And I think when you think of your life, you have a plus, you have a minus, and you have equals. So your friends are usually your equals. Some of them might be minuses, some of them might want more from you. You have a plus, who is like your business coach, your partner. They give a lot to you. And then you have a minus, which is probably like things like your clients. They take a lot of your energy, or maybe people that you really don't like that are in your life. Might even be family, you just never know. So where are those pluses actually coming from?
Right.
You probably need a couple more pluses for you to have more energy to plow into yourself, because if everyone is actually taken away from you, how are you going to manage that energy you have left? So I would say number one would probably be energy management. Then number two would just be make it as simple as possible. Like it really does not need to be overthought. It does not need to be hard. If you make something as easy as possible, you are far more likely to do it. So think about like, if you buy loads of chocolate biscuits and loads of packs of crisps and you have loads of rubbish in your cupboard, because it's so easy, you open the cupboard and you see them straight away, you're going to eat them. Whereas if there's more healthy things in the cupboard and not as many crisps and not as many chocolates for the week, you're probably going to budget and you're going to be like, okay, I can't have that because it's actually not that easy because I'm going to have to go to the shop again. And it's the same with walking. Like if your car is always there, and if you're not on time, you're just going to take the car. Whereas if you're on time and your car isn't like filled with fuel, or it could just be like you making excuses, but in the right way, then you're probably going to take a little walk. Like even waking up 10 minutes earlier and just going for a quick 10-minute walk around the block, it's really not that hard. Things like if you go physically to work, which I know a lot of people probably don't, but if you physically go to work, then just take your gym kit in the car. Like I'll always have a gym kit in the car, just in case. Keep yourself accountable. Like text your friend saying, can we meet at this time at the gym? It doesn't even have to be the gym. It could be like for a walk, a dog walk, a swim, a run. It could literally be anything. I don't know, like a game of tennis, a game of basketball, anything at all, but maybe just ask a friend to go with you. Because if you can't possibly force yourself to go, then you're not going to let that friend down. As a business owner, you know how it feels to be let down. So it's probably the worst fear to let someone else down. And I just think always tell yourself simple scales, complexity fails. So if you make it complex, you're going to find any excuse not to do it.
as you like talk, it's such similar principles as you would put into business as well. So like if you run a business, you apply those same principles to hold yourself accountable. Like don't go all or nothing. Like I always say to people who want to start a business, I'm like, don't quit your job and just start unless you've got savings or the skill to be able to do it straight away. I think same with exercise. A lot of people are like, I'm never going to eat a chip again and I'm going to go to the gym 100%, every day.
Yeah. So I think like nutrition is a massive part of it, and that's where most people go wrong, including myself when I first started my fitness journey. Like I said, I cut out all meat. I did not need to do that. It was just because it was in the media and we were told that that was the right thing to do. Obviously, if you do want to take it really seriously, getting someone to help you like a coach or a PT is a great idea. All come to me. But I think the number one most important thing other than walks would just be focus on your nutrition. And it doesn't mean that you need to count calories. It just means like cut down on those takeaways, cut down on convenient foods, use a little less oil. Like it's not anything drastic or magic. Like it's so simple. We just have no clue. Like a lot of the time I used to have like 3 pieces of bread. Like I don't even know why. I'm like, why did I need 3? Like a lot of the time you're not actually hungry. Like the one thing I always ask myself now, because if you're sitting at work, and I know a lot of us are like fully focused in tasks, but I can fully focus in tasks and eat at the same time. Like very easy for me as a foodie. I will happily do that. But I always ask myself now, if there was a massive platter of just protein, so just meat, so pork, beef, chicken, lamb, some fish, if it was just meat and that's it on the platter, would you eat it? Like, would you eat it all? Like, if the answer is no, then you're not actually hungry. You're either eating out of boredom, convenience, or emotion.
Yeah.
So, and that does not mean that you have an eating disorder if you don't eat. It just means that you're being more intuitive. You're not actually hungry. There's a different hole. Like you might be thirsty, you might be bored, you might just be a bit emotional or hormonal. Like you're not actually hungry, so you don't need to be eating all the time. Like I used to tell myself like this is fooling me through, but I'm like that's actually probably going to make me more tired.
Yeah.
It usually does if you're just snacking all day and not having proper nutrition in a meal. So yeah, that's what I would say. Nutrition is 100% so important.
Yeah. No, that's something I think I look back on, actually, I probably struggled with the most when I was starting my business. So when I started my business, I lived on my own, and I would quite easily like wake up in the morning and I don't feel hungry of a morning. Like it's really unusual for me to wake up and be like, oh, breakfast. So I tried to listen to your body and all that good stuff that people would tell you. If you're not hungry, like I don't need to eat right now. But the thing was, when I was living by myself, I would quite easily get into like a very intense focus mode, be on my computer and not realize that like 3 o'clock had come and gone and I hadn't eaten a peep that day. And then I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this. I'd be like ravenously hungry because I'd realized that I hadn't eaten and I'm actually listening to my body. And I would be hungry for nothing that would be good for me because it just didn't feel like enough. I'd want takeaway, or I'd want like I'd eat while I was cooking because I was so hungry. I just needed something then and there. And then as I got, well, first off, my boyfriend moved in and would take care of me and make me lunch. And I was really lucky that I had a partner that's supportive and able to do that for me. But I also started meal prepping a lot to make sure that like that didn't happen, because it was as simple as grabbing a tub out of the fridge and my lunch was there and just needed warming up and I was good to go. I feel like there's a lot of small things that are just about preparation when it comes to like health, whether that's blocking out the time to go to the gym in your calendar so you don't end up on calls and be like, oh, well, I've got no time to go now, or things like meal prepping, putting your gym kit in your car like you mentioned earlier. Like it feels like that ties in a lot.
Yeah, definitely. And it's just initially putting in that time and effort and you'll see the rewards later on. But even something like, even if you're too lazy to prep, just buy. Like you have the money as a business owner, like just buy it, because you would probably spend so much more money on food that you're not going to use anyway. Like how much food do you actually throw away? I don't do that anymore because I'm like, obviously it's my job to eat healthy, but I remember like when I first started out healthy, I would buy it all and not actually cook it. So you're wasting money doing that anyway. And there are so many deals these days to make sure that we are hitting our nutrition. So just like buy microwave meals if that's the easiest thing you can do. It's not a forever solution, but for now it's a starting point. Like you can get better with that. And I think another thing would be that you just make it as easy as possible. It doesn't even need to be, you don't need to be hungry to eat as well, the opposite way around now. So even though a lot of us overeat, a lot of us actually don't eat at the right times either. So if you're like having a massive window from, say, you wake up like 6 a.m., you're not eating at 3 p.m., you're not actually functioning at your best and serving yourself to your true potential in work because you're deprived. Like you probably drank hardly nothing.
No, I was over caffeinated and under fueled.
Yeah, so, exactly. So it could even be the point like where you buy something like a Huel shake, you know, like I'm not saying they're forever thing, but it will help. Like it's going to give you that energy you need, and you don't even need to be hungry to drink. Like you can just drink it, you can sip it throughout the day, and then at 3 if you want to eat, like eat at 3. I'm not going to tell you need to eat at any time because it's your choice. But yeah, just making sure that what actually matters to you, say that's your business or your family, you actually feel in that. Because a lot of the time we say that our values are something, but we're living in alignment with the total opposite.
Yeah. And I think it goes into like, if you want your business to grow, I think people have an issue with perception. They're like, I want to grow my business. Like, I want to do this. I want to be there in 5 years. And they just focus on that singular thing and don't necessarily like zoom out and think about like all the stuff that has to happen to make sure that that's possible. And if you are singularly focusing on, I want to grow my business to whatever arbitrary, like it could be 10K months because that's just what you've got in your head. It could be any goal that you've got in mind. But having that goal on its own doesn't lend itself to you being like a rounded human. And if you want to get to that place in business, you need to make sure you're happy and healthy and not burnt out 6 months in because you've done too much.
Yeah. And I honestly think that's like, I mean, it's no one's fault, but I think it's just the world we live in. Like the media shows us like, if you wish for this, it's going to happen. If you manifest it, like whatever. I believe in all that stuff, but I do think it's very reflective of the work you put in.
Yeah,
like,
agreed.
Not just be hopeful for your entire life. Luck might have a kind of an influence, but it's not all down to luck. It's down to you putting the work in. Like for the longest time, I remember I did used to have like one figure on the wall. I was like, but really, that's just a number. It has no meaning behind it. I have no idea how I'm going to get there. And instead of focusing on the end results, I always think focus on the habits and behaviors.
Yeah.
Work backwards. Like think,
agreed.
You want to make that 10K month. What do you actually need to do to get there, and work backwards into like a weekly schedule, then a daily schedule, and then just tick it off. And don't ever congratulate, this is what I realized as well when I hit that glass ceiling like we were talking about, don't ever congratulate yourself for the money. Congratulate yourself for the work you put in. So that would be that like you ticked your to-do list off every day, or you turned up every day. You actually went to work when you said you were going to. You had those meetings that you really did not want to do. Like you congratulate the behavior, because the behavior is what got you the result.
Yeah.
Because it's the same like if you're bringing up kids. I read like this parenting book, even though I'm not a parent and I don't plan to be a parent anytime soon. But I don't know. I think I heard it on a podcast. It's really good to read something like that for the inner work and the way you like bring your business into the world and everything. So if you were to constantly congratulate the kid for like winning sports days or winning awards, they strive to always win. And then as you grow up into an adult, you always want to win, but you never really do. So then obviously you have like a complex expectation of yourself that you can never reach. So you become like depressed basically. So if you're constantly rewarding yourself for the numbers, then you're actually not going to be better off. You're going to be a lot healthier and a lot happier if you're rewarding yourself for the work. So for a child, you reward like them doing their homework or them revising. That's the kind of things we need to keep rewarding rather than the outcome.
Yeah, that's really interesting because when I look back, I've noticed a really strange link in my business that the months that I take the most time off are always the months that I make the most money.
See,
And
it's because you're going living. It's because
yeah,
you're being a person.
yeah. And it's wild to me, like, because in my head, I've looked back and I've realized this trend after the fact, basically. So I noticed there was a time, I think it was 2021. So I was like post-COVID joy of we can do stuff again. And I think I went to a festival, there was a bank holiday, and I went and took a week off for a family trip to go and climb Snowdon. And I did all of those three things in like 1 month. So I think I had out of the 20 working days, half. I think I had 10 working days instead of 20. And it was to this date one of the highest income months that I've had in my business.
That's probably
And
because, like, of your social media, people were interested in you. You had
yes,
something to talk about. Like, you were a person rather than a
yeah,
business. Like, people love that. And if your
yeah,
job is to work with people, do more of it.
yeah. And for those 10 days that I was working, I was so focused. Everything felt really easy. Like it was just the most perfect 10 working days that I could have had because I was rested and I recouped and I felt good. So the work just came so much easier and was so much more effective than like
That honestly
tying
makes
myself to
me
my
so
desk.
happy. It makes me so happy. And it's like that's the power of having intentional time and
Yeah.
working smart, not hard. Like you were obviously really efficient during that time and it paid off.
And I think that's where a lot of people struggle though. They don't see that as what's publicized and what's talked about when you're talking about the highest income months that you might have. You talk about tying yourself to your desk for 12 hours and people who talk about the grind and the hustle and all of that sort of stuff instead of this flip side of like, yeah, I always do better when I'm working less. And that getting that into your brain can be really tough to fight when you
Yeah.
what you see so often is the opposite.
And I actually read that in it. I can't remember what book it was. I have to get the book, but it's basically like the way you're brought up, especially in our culture, like in Wales, even. I don't know about probably all of the UK, but obviously in Wales, the average income is quite low. So
Yeah.
our parents work so much, and
Mm-hmm.
then all of a sudden we think that as growing up we need to work to get more money. So the more we work, the better off we're going to be financially. And I think I actually read this part and it was like because your mother or father did that, in your head you have this preconceived idea that that's the only way you can earn, when
Yeah.
in reality you don't need to work hard to earn more, you just need to work smart. And
Yeah.
I actually felt like that as well. Again, when I hit that glass ceiling, I was like, I'm literally working like probably like half days most days. And I hit more than what my dad earned. And he works like 60 hours a week. And I'm like,
Yeah.
how is that possible?
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Like you're totally deserving of the money. You've put the work in. You've gone from zero to where you are now. You've absolutely smashed it. But it's actually trying to
Feels
accept
weird. Yeah.
you're worthy of that.
Yeah, it's really strange. I remember having a conversation with my dad actually, and it was just after I hired Josh into the business, and I was looking to hire someone else as well. And he'd kind of said like, whoa, like slow down a little bit. You know, he was saying like, oh, well, are you going to have enough money if you're both working for the business? And I was like, yeah, like I'm going to pay myself. And I dropped like what my salary was going to be and what Josh's salary was going to be. And he was like, yeah, but how is the business going to afford that? And I was like, because the business is making 4 times that. What do you mean? And he like couldn't quantify that I could be doing, because at the time it was just
Yeah.
me. He was like,
Yeah.
how are you making enough money to pay for 4 people times over and with these really great salaries that I didn't think were possible? Because he's never been in any other role than like really traditional jobs. Like his thing of a good life is like you have really good holiday leave and a great pension, and like that was his stance. And he didn't say it out of spite or not believing in me. It was just his perspective was like, how is that possible that you as one person
Yeah.
are making enough to sustain 4?
And it just shows how we're brought up then, like that
Yeah.
we do that as well. And it's fine, but it is honestly fine. But again, it just comes down to self-belief that like we can
Yeah.
actually do it. And then you have, like you smashed it. So
Yeah.
well done.
Okay, I always have to sum up with something practical. So is there anything, any last kind of parting wisdom that you've got for the watchers on what they can start to do and implement, like as of today, to make sure that they're just keeping themselves a priority and staying healthy?
Yeah, so like I'll keep it to 3 things, I think, just to make it more
Because there could be too many.
Yeah, it could be everything. I think the first thing would just go spend more time outside, like walk in nature. Just go on a walk in nature, like even if that's your lunch break, do it, because it's 10 minutes. It will make you feel so much better. You're going to feel a lot more creative. So walk in nature. Second, focus on good quality nutrition. So if it's a one ingredient food, that means like a vegetable, a fruit, something that has like no additives. Have a couple of those in your day. It doesn't have to be many, but just have some, because it's going to make you feel a lot more fresh. And then the third one is that believe in yourself. Like, you've got this far, you wouldn't have been able to do it without that self-belief. So just believe that you can hit the next step, and just understand that every time you exceed your expectations, new challenges come up, but you just have to keep believing in yourself.
Yeah, amazing. And easy to put in practice as well. They're very like, good to get started, I feel like, type
100%,
of.
Yeah, because like you said, we just do forget about ourselves a lot of the time, don't we? Put yourself first.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to pop all of Shona's links in the description below so that you can go and connect with her. But is there any way that you would love people to find you specifically?
Oh, I'm only on Instagram, because that's all I really have. I have Facebook, but I have like 20 friends on there. So and I'm still trying to figure out how to use LinkedIn. So just Instagram. That'd be great. Thank you.
And watch your stories. I will like vouch for your stories are always so good. You show like a little bit of everything.
Thank you so much. That's the business owner being a person. That's the key, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And I really appreciate you kind of sharing everything that you know, because it even for me a few years down, I'm like, oh yeah, I probably should do more of that. And it's been really insightful.
Yeah, thank you so much. Honestly, I've learned a lot as well. So thank you. And yeah, I hope you guys who are listening or watching really enjoy it as well.
Thank you.